So we start our story off. Hi guys, it's the Unsmooth Criminal, and we start our story off at the age 15, and this girl has been loved by her parents and loved or hated by her father and loved by her mother. And her mother especially moved out of the US to get away from her father at an early age so she can get a better life for herself. So her name is Annabeth, or Annabelle, whatever you want to call her. Annabelle, and she is the spirit of vengeance. That's the name of her quirk, and she has a mutation from her mother's side. She looks like a cat, and she's a very goth cat, if you want to say it like that. But she prefers black clothes and leather clothes too. So she gets home one day, and her mother says, "How was the entrance exams?" And she goes, "Oh, it was good. I think I aced it." And she just goes to her room and lays down and takes a nap. And Inko's like, "Oh my god, she's so lazy." And she's like, "Wait, nope, that's just the cat side of her. That's just the cat side of her." And later that day, it's dinner time. She says, "Anna, you need to wake up. It's dinner." And so she runs down, being like, "Dinner!" like a cat would. And Inko says, "Yeah, it's dinner, and I made your favorite, katsudon." And she goes, "Yeah." So we skip 2 weeks. She was accepted into UA, and it's now time for the first test. And she gets into class, and she sees her old bully. She sees her old friends, Mina and Kirishima, talking to Bakugo. They're all talking together, the bully and the friends. And she just walks to the back and sits down and puts her head down. And Bakugo's like, "Oi, extra!" And she just ignores him. And he goes, "Oi, cat bitch!" And she doesn't even lift her head. She just flips him off and then goes back to sleep. And Mina giggles at this, and Kirishima chuckles at this. And he goes, "The fuck? You know you're not supposed to be here. I'm the only one who deserves to be here." And Mina goes, "She's beaten you 30 times already, Katsuki. You don't need to try to prove again. She is stronger than you." He goes, "Over my dead body." And Anna, knowing he was about to say that, gets up without jingling the collar she has, because she prefers to have a collar on. And she basically flash steps, or shunshweens if you want to call it a shunshween. But she basically quickly teleports to behind Katsuki and goes, "That can be arranged." And she's grinning with the sharp teeth that she has for being a part Nico. And Mina's like, shivers and goes, "You need to stop doing that." And he goes, "Oh, but why?" And she goes, "Because it's weird and creepy. Could just be a creepy pasta for all I care. You'd still be a ship for me to do." And Anna goes, "I'm not going to ship with anybody." And Mina goes, "Oh, really? Okay, then. Try me." And she goes, "Okay, you're being tried. Try to ship me with someone in this class by the end of the day." And Mina goes, "Easy." So Mina just keeps watching everybody who comes through the door, and she's waiting for the perfect person to come through the door, and the class starts. And Mina has found the person that she's going to ship with, and Roman Mina, or also known as Roman Shipper. If you can guess what the ship is, I'm not going to point it out in this episode. If you can guess what the ship is, I'll give you back the top 10 criminal rank before tomorrow afternoon. Okay? I'll give you it back if you can guess it. So, Mina is trying to get this to work, and Anna is sitting in the back, half asleep. And Aizawa says, okay, everybody, you got to get out to the field and do the test. And everybody goes, oh, come on. And he goes, first off, I can expel you all right this second. And he gives a speech about how he runs his class, how he wants to run his class. And Nezu doesn't give a crap. And everybody asks who's Nezu except for her. And she knows because she studied everybody at UA and says, Nezu's the principal. And she just walks out. And Baku's like, you're not beating me. So he runs and he tries to get to the changing room first. So she gets to the changing room first, and she changes and gets out there first. And Bakugo has a very serious inferiority complex. There we go. Inferiority complex. And he's trying his hardest to get her to notice him because he has a crush on her. Yes, I'm doing this. And oh crap. Oh fuck. Aizawa finally gets out there and says, okay, the person who got the first in the entrance exam was Anna Midoriya, and he throws the ball to her, and so she throws it, and she gets roughly 1,500 meters, and Bakugo gets cannon. Everybody else gets cannon. She gets the fastest speed. She gets the most pull-ups, the most push-ups, the most sit-ups, the most pacers, the fastest mile, the fastest dash, and she's on the top of the class by far. And she's like, okay, I'm going home because you're about to end class and say that this entire thing was a joke and that you just wanted to see what our progress is so far. And so she starts to walk away, and his mouth is hanging open like, she's right. That threat about me expelling you while you're in class, I'm not going to expel you unless I have a really good fucking reason. So she walks into the change room, and she finally sees the hole. So she uses her flames, and because she can control them, and so she changes her arm into flames, and she melts the wall because the heat of the flame melts it, and it covers the hole. And she's like, there we go. And she gets changed, and once she puts her shirt back on, her normal shirt, and is tightening her collar, everybody else walks in. And so she tightens her collar, the bell's there, and she walks out, not caring, and she walks home. But when she sees the apartment building that she lives at with her mom, she sees that it's also blocked off. And her mother specifically got every single apartment in this building for them. So no one can complain about either smell or sound or so no one can complain. And she sees the entire building quarantined off. And she's like, the fuck? And she starts to freak out a little. And so she runs and is stopped by a security guard for a second saying, I'm sorry, miss, but you can't pass this. And she completely just backhands him, going, "Fuck off, I live here." And she runs in and she sees her mother, covered in white stuff and beaten and stabbed to the point where she died. And she gets close to her mother and she starts to cry. And she cries so much and for so long that she actually passes out. And they can finally take her out of the building. And Midnight was there to help keep the pedestrians away and help try to suss out the criminal behind this. And she ran in and Midnight hugged her, trying to calm her down, and she fell asleep in Midnight's arms, and Midnight went out with her and took her to um um UA, because Midnight still works at UA. So she walks into UA and with Anna, and Anna is just barely awake, and she's walking like a zombie, emotionless zombie. And Midnight says, "Come with me, I'll take you to Nezu and we can sort out a way for you to stay here and continue being at UA." And she just nods her head, being like, "Okay." And she's covered in blood and white stuff. You guys should know what white stuff is. And she walks into Nezu's office, and Nezu says, "Oh my god, what happened?" In his soft, soothing voice. And Midnight says her mother just got assaulted and killed. And she looks at Anna and says, "Anna, can you go to Recovery Girl and get a checkup just in case you accidentally hurt something while you were there?" And she goes, "Sure." And she walks to Recovery Girl and back with Midnight and Nezu. Midnight explains what happened to Anna's mother and says that the killer wasn't caught yet, hasn't been caught yet, and we haven't found out who the killer is yet. And Nezu's like, "Okay, I shall make a dorms system for all the people and have their parents move to a different household or help their parents move to a different household so they can stay under the radar. Because this might also be an attack on UA." And Midnight says, "Okay, I understand." And so she leaves the room, and when she leaves the room, they hear a giant explosion. And so Midnight runs over to Recovery Girl, and Recovery Girl is unharmed from the explosion. And Recovery Girl goes, "I'm sorry." And Midnight goes, "What do you mean you're sorry? Where is Anna?" And Recovery Girl goes, "Anna left." And she points to the hole in the wall and says that I tried to calm her down I tried to get her to stop, and she didn't look good. And Midnight says, "What do you mean she didn't look good?" And Recovery Girl says, "She looked like a ghost." And Midnight goes, "What do you mean a ghost?" And she says, "Her ears changed and her hair changed, and seems like she was staring off into the distance, not actually looking into this world." And Midnight goes, "What?" And she goes, "Yeah, her hair was white, her ears were white, and she wasn't wearing her normal clothes, and that was strange to me." And Midnight goes, she was wearing her normal clothes when she was told to walk over here." And And Recovery Girl goes, she wasn't wearing them though. And she seemed to be shorter than the last time I saw her. And Midnight goes, oh god, did her quirk evolve? And Nezu goes, if her quirk evolved, then it might have gone from a triple S to a quadruple S. And there's only one of those so far. And that is all for one. So, we gotta keep an eye on her. And so Recovery Girl goes, don't worry. I put a tracker in the lollipop that I gave her, and it's an edible tracker that will be dissolved after 24 hours. So we have a 24-hour time window. And they look at the tracker's GPS, and it says that room that they're standing in right that second. And Recovery Girl goes, what? So she walks over to the hole, and it beeping like she's right on top of it. And she looks down, and she sees the lollipop there. And she goes, well, crap. Well, that stinks. And so we skip a few weeks. It's Midnight has felt bad for her because her only family in Japan that actually loved her was her mother, and the only friends she had was Mina and Kirishima, and they never ever talked to her except for a few times before and after class, mainly. And Midnight was like, okay, she's still too young to be an adult by herself, so when I see her, I'm going to adopt her to make sure that she can survive on her own. And Aizawa heard this pledge and is like, okay, I'll help you find her, and when we do, we will convince her to do so. And Aizawa finds a dead body while he's on patrol, and he sees that the head's lopped off. He's like, the hell? And he looks at the writing, and it says, hold on. And he looks at this body, and then he looks up, and he sees writing on the brick wall above the body, and it says, say thanks to the Arctic Rose that the man slew my mother is dead. And it trails off with a handprint and a frowny face drawn in the man's blood. And it's past the heroes versus villains. And so they scoot the USJ back a few weeks because they need all the heroes they can on this, and they're still trying to find her. And Aizawa and Midnight are patrolling one night, and they hear a scream. This isn't a manly scream at all, and it's coming from a man. It's a scream so girly that he wouldn't be able to live it with himself after he screamed. But Aizawa immediately dashes off and runs towards her, and he sees this woman, this tall woman in Midnight's height, with purple flames covering her and a long medieval trench coat. Or a long trench coat with medieval corset and other stuff on. And she's on fire. And this man's eyes have just been hollowed out into this rock-looking substance where it's still slightly glowing, like it's just been poured in there. And she transforms from this to, where is it? This. And with a deadpan expression, she walks over and cuts the arm off. And this is the 13th body they found from her, and they see that she cut the arm off and it getting closer to her face. And he has his hand over Midnight's mouth and he says, "Be quiet." And it's such a soft voice that an ear flicks over and she looks over and she doesn't see anybody in the alley, so she goes back to what she was doing. And she takes a bite out of the arm. And Aizawa had to stop the urge to puke. And Midnight threw up with a loud sound with it. And Aizawa goes, "Oh crap, we're found out." And she tries to run away, and Aizawa goes, "All Might, now!" And All Might jumps in front of her and says, "I'm sorry, little lady," and punches her into the wall. She lands and cracks the wall, and she's out cold. And Aizawa walks up to her and puts something in her hair, and this is not a normal something in her hair. This is a little bow, and he puts a card on her lap. And All Might's like, "What are you doing? Aren't we supposed to arrest her?" And he goes, "No, we're not supposed to arrest her. We're supposed to stop her and see what her problem is. And then if she's a serial killer that is convicted of serial killing and she's not under the age, we can put her in jail. But we still don't even know what her age is because she went from a 20-year-old female body that was on fire to a 10-year-old child's body, and since you hit her, she's now unconscious. So we have to wait." And he's yelling at All Might, and the noise slowly wakes her up, and she looks around, and she's scared, and she sees Midnight, and she wants to run from Midnight, and she tries to run, and All Might says, "I'm sorry, but I can't let you go." And she kicks him where the sun don't shine, and he buckles over, and Aizawa starts to laugh, and he wraps her up in his scarf and says, "I'm sorry, but we have a present for you." And her eyes widen, and she looks at the card that fell on the ground, and she knew it fell on the ground. She looks at it, and he says, "You need to open it. And it's in your hair, too." And her hand instinctively goes to her head, and she feels the bow. And she pulls it out of her hair and sees it's the bow that her mother was going to give her after she got home. Because it was her birthday the day her mother died. And she opened up the card, and it was a birthday card from her mother. And it was wishing her a happy birthday and hoping that she could be a great hero and that she can change the world. And she starts to cry, and she shifts back from this to this. And her clothes shift with her because she has a shape-shifting ability with the Spirit of Vengeance. And Midnight runs up and hugs her and says it's all right and it's going to be okay. And her stomach starts growling, and she goes, "I'm hungry." And Midnight goes, "Okay, we'll get you food when we get home." And she walks over to the arm that she dropped, and she picks it up and starts eating it again. And by this point, if you guys have seen the texting story version of this, I hope you guys can help me find it again, because I can't find it. It was either deleted or it's still up somewhere in the ether, and I can't find it. But she starts eating it again, and Midnight vomits again, and Aizawa's trying to keep his dinner in, and uh, All Might is lost his lunch, and she looks at Aizawa and goes, "Want some? Are you good?" And he goes, "No, no, no, I'm good." And she goes, "Okay," and she continues eating, and she eats everything except the manly bits. And so they go, "Okay, how many of those do you need a day?" And she goes, "A half. I've been really hungry the last few days." And they go, "Yeah, because you normally only eat an arm or a leg or a head." And she goes, "Yeah, you guys show up too fast. I normally have to run. But you guys showed up while I was getting him." And Midnight goes, "Okay, I want to take you to the quirk doctor tomorrow so we can see if we can help you." And she goes, "Okay." And she's acting like a 10-year-old at this point, because even though she has the body of a 18-year-old, she's acting like a 10-year-old, and she's mentally broken and just regressed in age to heal. And she has multiple personalities now. She has the killer personality that doesn't talk. Then she has the uh, spirit of vengeance personality that doesn't give a shit what it does. And then it has her personality, which is sad and normally sad. Ooh, Vibe Kage. Or it's normally sad, and everybody's like, "Okay." So they take her to Recovery Girl, and Recovery Girl says hello, and she says, "Sorry about the wall." And Recovery Girl goes, "Oh, no need to be sorry, and I'm just glad that you're back." And she says, "I'm guessing you want me to check her quirk?" And they go, "Yeah." So they go through the quirk process, and Recovery Girl sees in the machine that it says that she has 3 different forms, and her quirk is called Spirit of Vengeance and Spirit of Decay. And they're like, "What the fuck is Spirit of Decay?" There's legends of the Spirit of Vengeance quirk, because the quirks have been around for thousands and thousands of years. And the quirk singularity is not a theory for this one, but the quirks have been around for thousands and thousands of years. And what the fuck is the Spirit of Decay? And it doesn't go into any details. And Anna is starting to get a little hungry, and she goes, "Can I get something to eat?" And Midnight goes, "When we get home, we'll get you something to eat. We need to go talk to Nezu." And she goes, "Oh, Grandpa Nezu?" And she's acting like a 10-year-old, and she's calling everybody who's been nice to her grandpas, aunts, aunts. So she called a cover girl grandma. And she's calling Aizawa dad, and Midnight mom, and All Might uncle. And All Might's a little sad because he's being called the uncle, but he's happy that he's being included. And Aizawa is happy that he gets a Nico as a kid. So they take her to Nezu, and Nezu gets the rundown of what happened. And so Nezu says, "I'll see what I can do and talk to the people about the Spirit of Decay." And so the next few days, she is given an arm and a leg every mealtime. And these are only prisoner arms and legs of death row inmates. So there's a lot of them, especially since there's mass murderers everywhere. And she eats them, and she has a good time eating them because she talks and normally eats with her parents, her adopted parents. And So I'm gonna end it there. If you guys want this series to continue and want me to go more in depth with her abilities, then you guys tell me. If you guys don't want this to continue and you don't want me to go more in depth, then tell me in the comments I'm an idiot for doing this. But talk to you guys later.